Shabbat Shalom. And I'm going to give you a potentially new greeting. Melkam Sigd Bahal. Happy Sigd. So today is Sigd. You thought maybe perhaps that there were no holidays in Cheshvan, but it turns out that the Ethiopian Jewish community has a holiday in Cheshvan on the 29th of Cheshvan called Sigd. And so we're going to learn a little about that today. So Sigd is a holiday celebrated by Ethiopian Jews who are also known as Beta Israel, like Beit Israel, House of Israel. And because the Beta Israel lived in isolation from the rest of the Jewish world for centuries, they developed some different customs. Just as Jews in all parts of the world develop their own customs, there's this holiday called Sigd. Sigd is an Amharic word, which means prostration or worship, to lie down on the ground in worship. So, as I said, it's on the 29th of Cheshvan, which, if you do a little math, it's 50 days after Yom Kippur, and it's kind of connected to the high holidays in some way. There's an aspect of actually putting the resolutions that we make during the high holidays into practice, getting along with each other, with that work that we've been doing since the high holidays, and then celebrating that at a communal gathering. This date, the 29th of Cheshvan, is also in the Ethiopian tradition thought to be the day that God first revealed God's self to Moshe. So you can imagine, many thousands of years ago, God revealing God's self at the burning bush to Moshe and wanting to mark that as a significant day also in our own relationship with God and with our tradition. So there are many themes that seem to have all be present in this holiday. One of them is about accepting Torah, connected to the revelation at Sinai, just like God revealed God's self to Moshe. And we'll see a little bit about that. There's also an aspect of not only receiving Torah at Mount Sinai, but also receiving Torah when the Jews return from the Babylonian exile and reconnect with the Torah through Ezra and Nehemiah under their leadership. We'll look at that together in a little bit. And so some of the readings have to do with the revelation at Sinai and Nehemiah. There's an aspect of yearning for the temple, yearning for the being able to worship at the temple, and a lot of liturgy about longing for Zion. It's a time for renewing the covenant with God and kind of, as I said, bringing that connection from the high holidays through into later in our year. And then as a unique Ethiopian Jewish holiday, there's a focus on the traditions and culture of Ethiopian Jewry. And at this point, it's also the Ethiopian Jewish community has said, we want all Jews to celebrate this holiday. We want to share it, right? We want everyone in Israel to celebrate it. We want Jews around the world to be aware of this holiday and celebrate it themselves and learn about it. And so another aspect is thinking of the importance of Jewish tradition, even in exile, right? The Jewish community in Ethiopia was there for a really long time. There's different thoughts about when they arrived there, but for so long they held on to this longing to return to the homeland, to return to Eretz Israel. And yet, even when we're not there, to hold on to our traditions where we are. So what actually happens? How is Sigd observed? So it starts off with a fast in the morning, kind of reminiscent of Yom Kippur. Now bringing in the aspect of revelation at Sinai, there is a walk to the top of a mountain. So this is in Ethiopia, they would, and I don't know a lot about how it's still celebrated in Ethiopia by the Jews that are still there, but actually going on a big hike up the mountain. And so if you look at your source sheet and you see this image with the umbrellas, the elaborately decorated umbrellas come from the tradition of using the umbrellas for shade while going on this hike. So really taking that experience of ascending towards closeness with God and towards revelation in a physical way, similar to receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai. And before getting to the mountain, ritually immersing in a river and putting on clean, often white, holiday clothing. So you can see some of the parallels to Yom Kippur, or even to, in the Torah, how the Israelites purified themselves before receiving the Torah. The spiritual leaders are called Kesim. You can see that in the caption for this image. And the text that they have is called the Orit. So if you've heard the Aramaic word Oraita, which is the word for the Torah, it comes from that. And the Orit is not just the 5 books of the Torah. It's called an Octateuch, as opposed to the Pentateuch, because they also have Joshua, Judges, and Ruth. And it's written not in Hebrew, but in Ge'ez, which is a liturgical language. So the spoken language is Amharic, and a liturgical language is Ge'ez. And I think that both have some connections to Aramaic and to Hebrew. And so the Kesim will recite selections from the Torah, from the revelations at Sinai, and from Nehemiah as well, which I think is not in the Orit, but somehow was present. And we'll look a little bit at the text from Nehemiah together. So the community has a prayer service. It involves prostration on the ground. Sigd means prostration, asking forgiveness for one's sins. The shofar is blown, and then you'll recognize this phrase: just as we have merited to celebrate this holiday this year, may we merit to celebrate it next year in Jerusalem, right? The liturgy speaks of the desire to go to Jerusalem, and in the afternoon, people return to their homes to break the fast and dance and celebrate. So now, this holiday is most widely celebrated in Israel. So in 1984 and in 1981, in 1984 and 1999, most of the Ethiopian Jewish community was brought to Israel after facing civil war and famine in Ethiopia and persecution in the refugee camps in Sudan. So today, Ethiopian Jews make up about 2.3% of the Israeli Jewish population and 1.75 of the total population of Israel. But of all of the Ethiopian Jews in the world, most are now in Israel. And they've encouraged all Jews to celebrate this holiday of Sigd and to learn about it. Since 2008, it's also been a state holiday in Israel, so going to work is optional. It's taught about in the schools. We teach about it here in the religious school as well. And in Israel, has anyone ever been in Israel for Sigd? Has anyone ever celebrated it? Okay, one person, my friend Rabbi Michaela Brown is here. We went together a couple years ago while we were studying in Jerusalem. It's really special. You have this picture of it here. You can see that people gather in Armon HaNatziv, which is an area in Jerusalem that overlooks the old city. So I think this picture is amazing. You can see the old city in the background. And I think just thinking about how much of this holiday was about longing to be in Jerusalem, to actually celebrate it with Jerusalem in sight, with access to the Kotel, is incredible. There's a procession to the Kotel, and it's celebrated like in Ethiopia with fasting in the morning, reciting psalms, reading from the Orit, breaking the fast, dancing and celebrating. Ethiopian Jews from all over are coming together. People who aren't Ethiopian are coming to celebrate and learn as well. There's a lot of celebration of Ethiopian Jewish culture in general around that time, really an opportunity to learn about that tradition within the wider, diverse Jewish community and all our traditions. So now we're going to get into a little text study. Many Ethiopian Jews think that the origins of this holiday come from this moment in the book of Nehemiah, which we'll look at together. So the context of this is that the Israelites have been in exile after the destruction of the first temple. They're in exile in Babylonia, and they finally, after 70 years, have the opportunity to return. Okay, and many do. But once they return, there's a lot that they've forgotten. There's been a lot of assimilation and a forgetting of many of the traditions. And they're coming back and they want to reconnect. And in this moment, we'll see what happens. Okay. When the seventh month arrived, now the seventh month in the biblical calendar, this is Tishrei. Okay, so actually our first month, this is around Rosh Hashanah. Okay, when the seventh month arrived, the Israelites being settled in their towns, the entire people assembled as one man in the square before the water gate, and they asked Ezra the scribe to bring the scroll of the Torah of Moshe with which the Lord had charged Israel. On the first day of the seventh month, Rosh Hashanah, Ezra the priest brought the Torah before the congregation, men and women and all who could listen with understanding. He read from it, facing the square before the water gate, from the first light until midday. So the men and the women and those who could understand, the ears of all the people were given to the scroll of the Torah. Right? So Ezra opened the scroll in the sight of all the people, for he was above all the people. As he opened it, all the people stood up. Okay, you can picture, we just did Hagbah, right? And Ezra blessed the Lord, the great God, and all the people answered, Amen, Amen, with hands upraised. Then they bowed their heads and prostrated themselves before the Lord with their faces to the ground. They read from the scroll of the Torah of God, translating it and giving it sense, so they understood the reading. Nehemiah the Tirshata, Ezra the priest and scribe, and the Levites who were explaining to the people, said to the people, This day is holy to the Lord your God. You must not mourn or weep. For all the people were weeping as they listened to the words of the Torah. He further said to them, Go eat choice foods and drink sweet drinks and send portions to whoever has nothing prepared, for the day is holy to our Lord. Do not be sad, for your rejoicing in the Lord is the source of your strength. The Levites were quieting the people, saying, Hush, for the day is holy, do not be sad. Then all the people went to eat and drink and send portions and make great merriment, for they understood the things they were told. On the second day, the heads of the clans of all the people and the priests and the Levites gathered to Ezra the scribe to study the words of the Torah. So what strikes me the most here is the crying and the response. What do you think? Why were the people crying here? Yeah, Arlene? Mm-hmm. So Arlene says if they had been yearning for it, they finally experienced it, and that kind of joy can make you cry. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Did everyone hear Lewis? Okay, so Lewis was saying they realize how far they've gotten from the Torah because they didn't have access to it before. Now that Ezra has presented it to them, they're realizing how disconnected they've really become, and they're mourning that. Yeah. Rose? Mm-hmm. Right. They're hearing about mitzvot that they've never heard of before, that they haven't been doing, and they might feel guilty and bad. I didn't know about this. It says, this is not in the part that I included, but that they heard about the holiday of Sukkot and celebrated Sukkot then. And many of the people just didn't know. There were always some people celebrating Sukkot, but they didn't know what to do, and they get the Torah, and then they can finally celebrate it. Yeah. And what do you think about this, that the Levites were telling them not to cry, not to mourn? What do you think about that response? Mark? Yeah. Do you want to say anything else about that? Yeah. Mark says this is a very difficult thing to insist on, right? They're feeling it, and to be told not to feel it, that's a very difficult thing to put into practice. Naomi. Yeah. So Naomi says, even if it's hard, take that feeling and put it into action and focus on what you're going to do to actually celebrate this holiday. Leora. Yeah. Thank you, Leora. Was there someone over? Okay. Yeah, Lewis. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. So we've learned a little about Sieged. We've seen this text that is about the ritual. Oh, excuse me. There's a few more verses because let's just look in the next chapter. Then this is on the 24th day of this month. The Israelites assembled, fasting in sackcloth with the earth upon them. Those of the stock of Israel separated themselves from all foreigners and stood and confessed their sins and the iniquities of their fathers. Standing in their places, they read from the scroll of the teaching of the Lord their God for 1/4 of the day, and for another fourth they confessed and prostrated themselves before the Lord their God. So we see that after the high holidays and after Sukkot, they actually set a dedicated time to focus on repenting for having missed out on those mitzvot, and they fast and they confess their sins. And so in a way, I think we do get this sense of, yes, you have so many emotions about what's going on right now, but we're able to kind of separate them through ritual and focus on Rosh Hashanah, on this being a joyous holiday, and then creating a dedicated time for acknowledging that we feel a lot of other feelings that are more difficult, that fasting and sackcloth and ashes can help us lean into and experience. And so we start to see how is it that this text is associated with Sieged, right? Because we have an element of both fasting and feasting, right? We have an element of confessing and prostration and that kind of Yom Kippur-like worship. And then we have the celebration and sharing food and the Yom Tov-like worship, right? We have a community in exile who is receiving Torah and celebrating receiving Torah and experiencing all of the emotion that comes from that. And we have a community in Ethiopia who's longing for return to their homeland, reading a story about their ancestors who have already experienced this, right? If it happened to them, it could happen to us once again, right? And it's really incredible after so many years that essentially it did. It's a combination. I find this text so moving because you can really experience the heartbreak and the joy at the same time, like all mixed up together. I feel that a lot with where we are right now, being able to look at so many Jews who were in trouble and now are in the land of Israel, and also see how hard it is to be in the land of Israel right now, and that we have so much, and yet we're still heartbroken, longing for peace, longing for a true redemption. So with that, I want to look at some of the liturgy that really brings us into that emotion. The next source is actually a song. It's a contemporary version of a traditional song which speaks longingly of the return to Jerusalem, as the holy city of light. This is a version by Gili Yalo, who himself was evacuated in Operation Moses, and he and his family made this journey, this perilous journey from Ethiopia, I think, to Sudan, and this vision of getting to the Promised Land sustained them. And he recounts that he and his family would sing, and that the music was something that would help carry them through. And so this is his version. We're going to look at it. I'm actually going to teach us to sing an excerpt of it, okay, so we can celebrate Sieged ourselves in that way. And I will just acknowledge this is an excerpt, and I really encourage people to go to the website and just listen to this song in its full glory, the way that it's meant to be sung. And so let's take a look at it. So we can note that Jerusalem is called by the last two syllables, Salem. Okay, Salem, your face is in a pure light, the holy city of Zion. Hello to you, our city. Peace, may peace be upon you, immigrant, migrant. Peace, may peace be upon you, may peace be upon the temple, like a big light on your face. Hello, hello, hello to you, Jerusalem, Salem. Hello, hello, hello to you, the temple of peace. Peace, may peace be upon you, immigrant, migrant, and then the words for peace, may peace be upon you in Ge'ez, Salem, Salem, Leki, which sounds quite similar to its correlation in Hebrew, Shalom Lach, peace to you. Okay, so let's try it out. We're going to start with this part, Salem, Selam Leki. Selam Leki. So if you're looking down here at the transliteration or in the Hebrew, we're going to look at that last line first. Okay, so repeat after me. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. So the second selam is elongated. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Right, so first goes lower and then higher. Let's try that. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Again. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. One more time. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. There's only one more part that you need to learn because we'll do it as a call and response. After I do the part with these words, you'll say, Shalom lach ir. Try that. Shalom lach ir. Once more. Shalom lach ir. Okay, so I'll sing this part in Hebrew, Kemo or gadol panaich, ir tzion hakdosha. And then you'll say, Shalom lach ir. And then I'll do the next part. You'll say Shalom lach ir. And then we'll try the Selam leki. We'll sing that 4 times. All right. Okay. And if you catch on to the part that I'm singing, you can join in with that as well. Kemor gadol panaich ir tzion hakdosha. Shalom lach ir. Betzochor tahor panaich ir tzion hakdosha. Shalom lach ir. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Kemor gadol panaich ir tzion hakdosha. Shalom lach ir. Betochor tahor panaich ir tzion hakdosha. Shalom lach ir. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Selam, selam leki. Beautiful. So I really encourage you to listen to the original version so you can get all of the beautiful African rhythms that I myself am not quite capable of, and learn more about this artist and about this beautiful holiday, which is part of the Jewish tradition and belongs now to all of us. May we see peace in the holy city of Jerusalem, and may we see peace throughout the world. If you turn to the back of your page, you can wish each other a happy Sigd with Melkam Sigd Bahal. Happy Siegd and Shabbat Shalom.